Okay, this lab is on Restconf with Postman. We're going to make use of Postman application to send and receive API requests, to and from the cloud service router 1000V. Before we can start the lab, make sure that you have started your cloud service router 1000V. And do a show IP interface brief. To take note of the IP addresses that the cloud service router is having for you to send the API request. Next, you're supposed to start your Postman application, which you have started here. I'm going to actually hide the side panel, which we don't really need it. Click on the plus sign to create a new tab. Copy the URL, initial URL that we're going to actually see whether we can establish a connection with the router. Ensure that you have changed the IP addresses to the IP addresses that you have actually get from the cloud service router that you have started. In this case, for me, it will be 192.168.2.129. Next, I'm going to configure the authorization field. Click authorization field, under type, click basic authentication, and make sure that your username is Cisco and Cisco123 !, which is a user that has been created on the cloud service router. You can verify that this field has been added in the header field by clicking on the header tab. Just take note that by default, when you start your Postman, all the default keys are being hidden. So when you click on the hidden tab to unhide the key, you can see that the authorization field has actually been encoded with a hashing method of the username and the password. Next, we are going to create two new key, content type and accept, to indicate what are the type of data that we're going to send and receive from the cloud service router. By default, there's already an accept key, so we're going to untick it, and we're going to create a replacement accept key, with the field value application yang data dash data plus JSON. We're going to create another additional key called content type. I'm going to copy, and the value is the same as you accept. Just copy and paste. Then after this step, basically, just ensure that you have actually turn off your enable SSL certificate verification by going to setting and turn it off. So after this, basically you can actually do a send request, and if you are able to successfully connect to the cloud service router, you will get a status 200 OK and a reply. So the cloud service router basically are able to reply using JSON data format or XML data format. So previously we are using JSON, which you see a curly bracket. If I use XML, you will see it in terms of this form. Let's change it back to JSON again. So the next step of the lab, basically we're going to look at another API URL to actually send the API request to the cloud service router. Copy and paste the new URL into the URL field. Ensure that there's no space that is being appended. Click on send. You will find that when you actually send this request, you will get back the interface gigabit Ethernet interface, which is the only interface that has been configured on the cloud service router. So in the lab, we actually ask you to actually get a request from loopback 1, but since we only have gigabit Ethernet 1, you can either replace with loopback 1 with gigabit Ethernet interface 1, or you can go back to the cloud service router, enable config T, and from here you just create your loopback 1 interface, configure it with IP address. In this case, the configure 1.1.1.1, 255.255.255.0, and do a no shut to enable the interface. So from here, if you copy the URL link now, loopback 1, Control C, and Control V. Okay, and then we send the request. Okay, you will see that it actually returned with a loopback 1 name and the IP addresses 1.1.1 and mask 255.255.255.0. Okay, so here may I say change the Restconf API endpoint to retrieve operational and statistic data about the interface. Okay, so what's the new, and paste this in. Okay, make sure you change the IP address 220 and 129. Send a request. Okay, you can see that what we are looking at here now is I got my gigabit Ethernet interface 1, the status is up, admin status up, operation status up, loopback 1 interface similarly, and there's another control plane interface. So altogether we have 3 different interfaces on this cloud service router based on this API URL. So the third part or the last part of this lab basically is to make use of the put request to update configuration to the cloud service router. And in this case, we're going to create a new loopback interface by sending an API request. And in this case, we will actually be using instead of get, we're going to use a put in front of the URL. If not, it's going to have some issue later. So this is a URL we're going to send. Make sure you update your IP address again if you copy your URL from another place. So you can see that I'm going to put an API request with loopback 99. Loopback 99. So scroll down. So you can see these are the data we are supposed to update with the raw data. But before we do that, let's do a get request for loopback 1 interface again, because we are going to make use of the reply to actually copy it to send the request. So change it to put, change this to 99. And under the body, go to raw. Go to raw. Under the body, click on the body. Click on the body. Then click on raw. Use the copy button to copy the whole text that is in the reply from the URL that we requested from the router earlier and paste it in. And based on the lab, we are supposed to create a new loopback interface called 99. So I'm going to change the name to loopback 99. IP address will be 99.99.99.99. Once you do this, basically you can just send the request. If you get a status 201 created and no error message being replied, it means that you have successfully sent a put request to the router to create a loopback 99 interface. You can verify this by going back to the router and do a show IP interface brief. And you can see that a new loopback 99 interface has been created with IP address 99.99.99. Another aspect of Postman that you might want to take note of is that if you have successfully created send a URL request to whatever API server, you can click on this code button. And since we are going to work with Python in the future, you can just scroll down, select Python request. You can see that this is actually the code that goes into your Python interpreter that actually sends a similar request to the router to either manage the router or to get information from the router. And these are the code that we're going to work with later.